Hi, I'm John Twist of University Motors. Today I want to show you a little something about the M35G starter. That's the starter that's used on the TD, TF, MGA, and the Midgets. It's also used on the transverse engines, the 11 and 1300s. So my videographer is going to draw back a little bit. We're going to take a gander at what's going on here. This is a crash-style starter. So what happens as the armature begins to move, the bendix tends to stay in the same place. This is also called an inertia starter. So this guy turns in and this guy runs to the back where it picks up the gear from the flywheel and begins spinning the engine. When the engine catches and begins to spin, begins to start up, that then kicks the gear back out. So let's just take a look at this and see it work a couple of times. You can see that it works its way back up because it is spring loaded. There's a pretty good sized spring in here, but right at the get-go, right at the start, you can see it jam back. Sometimes the bendix won't go back, and it just freewheels, it just spins. Almost always that's because of a burr on a little tiny split washer. If we come in really close, maybe you can see the split in this washer that fits around here, and it gets burred, and you have to take this bendix assembly apart and surface that washer, put it back together, and then it'll work just fine. In the meantime, you can always take a long extension or a pipe or something and just hit the back end of the armature and just tunk, and that'll free it up. But that's a whole lot of hassle on a repetitive basis. Better to fix it. So I want to show you how to get this bendix off of here. Now, on the earlier starters, hey, we're home free. There's a split pin, a nut with a reverse thread, and you simply take the split pin out and unscrew the nut, and the whole bendix assembly comes apart. No problem. But these are trickier. These you've got to collapse. You got to collapse the spring, which I'm just going to show you sort of how to do here. You need some pretty good sized vice grips. This thing can let loose, so beware of your hands and your teeth. Now it's loose, but we want to get this one, and we want to, oh, I'm going to lose him. I'm going to lose him here. He's going to hop out. Let's hope he doesn't hop off and hit the camera. I don't think he probably will, but point is that, oh, damn it. This is live here, so we don't have a 3-second protective loop here. Oh man, this is real creepy here too. I tell you, vice grips that have still got the X's on the end are far better to use than these, which are very worn. But I just want to make the point here. That's about it. Now you can take this guy, push him down, get a screwdriver, and let's see if I can do this without popping these guys off here. It's always a rude surprise when they pop. But this wire will eventually come off. You can see him come off here. just don't want to get one of these vice grips in the mouth. And come on, baby. I know this will work. There we go. Here's the little ring. Okay, that's easy. The top plate comes off here. The spring comes off here. And finally, we found the piece that we actually are after. So you take this guy, put some coarse paper on the table, sand him one side, sand him on the other. Maybe you got a bench grinder, bench sander, you can stick him on there. Hey, you're all set. The Bendix comes off. Sometimes it doesn't come off as easily as that. There's I don't know if you can see in here, but there's a square. I don't know if you can sight up the light, but there's a square on the inside of there that fits against the armature. Let's come down and take a look at the armature. We got these guys here on the armature here, and this guy fits on him, and sometimes he will not come off quite so easily. Anyway, so you can take him apart and you can clean him and lube him and make him a happy boy. Some of the starters jingle, and that's because this plate here, I don't know if you can see the free movement of this inside plate right here moving. Now the earlier starters had a snap ring inside here, but you can keep this from rattling quite so much by the judicious use of a hammer and just tapping it just a little bit to tighten it up, because some of these will jingle. I had one guy with a TF one time, and we were driving around the block for a test drive, and I said, "Doesn't that drive you nuts?" And he said, "What?" Well, it was the starter jingling, but he had a mid-range hearing loss, so I couldn't sell him the job of taking the starter off and making it silent. Anyway, that's the scoop. That's how you get the thing apart. This is the piece that you surface, and you can always take the whole starter motor apart. My suggestion is do that only if you got the right tools and the right amount of time. You can buy a new starter motor, a new starter for I don't know, 100, 120 bucks. It's usually a deal, you know, unless you're really keen on originality. And this one isn't probably old enough, but on the case, here we go, on the case, I don't know if we can read this or not in the light, but it says 1469. That's the 14th week in 1969. So if you've got a TD and you know, it says 6/51, that's the month, then you know, you might say, you know, that's just too cool, and I want the original starter to stay with my car. And at that point, you have to rebuild it or have it rebuilt. But if it's just a later model car, you don't care. It's usually cheaper to do it. Let me show you one more thing, and that's over here on the flywheel on this engine. I'm going to ask my videographer to come around here to the side. I just want to take a look, and there is some wear on the teeth, and I want to tell you that there's not very much wear here, and there's not very much wear here, but in here the teeth are chowed. I don't know if you can see this. I don't have a good pointer, but the teeth are chowed, and they're chowed 180 degrees out, because that's where the starter always runs into the teeth. Remember that when you turn the engine off, the pistons are always halfway up their bores, this way or this way. And so the flywheel either is sitting here or here, and so the Bendix always hits the flywheel in one of two areas, and we'll pull ring gears off that are just unbelievably horrible. Then the teeth jam up on each other, and if you have a problem with a stuck starter, that is that you pull the starter switch, nothing happens. Before you push the car to start it, put it in fourth gear and push the car backwards, and unscrew the Bendix from the flywheel, because sometimes instead of the teeth doing this, they climb on top of each other and wedges really tightly. And if you try to push the car, of course, it makes it even worse, bends the armature. Anyway, lots of trouble. So if you got a stuck starter, just put it in fourth, push the car backwards a foot, not with the ignition on, please. But just a foot, that's all. You can do it by hand, and that usually unsticks the starter. Remember, we've got technical seminars coming up already at the end of next week, and then I'll be in Chicago for the Chicagoland swap meet in Wheaton the last Sunday in February. So until then, safety fast.